Hello, Namaste. I welcome you all to the 40th session of Gurubodha with Dr. M.B. Guraja sir. I am Dr. Janardana Hebbar. Guraja sir has been kind enough to share a lot of treatment procedures, especially with refer to psoriasis. And Brother Dantapala has been one of the common factor in many of the psoriasis cases that he has treated. Gurata sir, can Grihadantapala or Sri Kutaja be applied on scalp in case of scalp psoriasis, sir?
Definitely, it can be applied to any sort of psoriasis. It may be gutted psoriasis, or it may be flexural psoriasis, or plaque psoriasis, whatever it may be. All sort of psoriasis, including the palmoplantar psoriasis and scalp psoriasis, it can be applied because this 3-Kutaja or Brihadantapala, what is present in that, it's basically a drug which slows down the keratolysis. That is the reason we use them.
So this Brihadantapala Thaila again contains the Raitia tinctoria only, sir? Or is there any difference between the 7-7 oil?
Usually both contain Raitia tinctoria, Raitia tomentosa. But the basic idea behind combining the two is particularly it's a Banu Paka Thaila method that is usually prepared. And I have observed that if one company oil, if I apply, many a times I didn't get a result of convincingly. So I started using a combined oil from both the companies, two different companies. Then definitely the result was much better. So based on that, usually I combine with Strikude Thaila to either Soria oil or Bradantapala Thaila or Vinsoria oil or Cutisora oil or something like that. So two company oils I'll usually combine because it gives a new combination of a wide range of Raitia tomentosa, Raitia tinctoria, which is being used at two different places and combining maybe giving a synergetic effect.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And whenever going to the next topic, whenever the Ayurvedic medicines are discussed, whether it can be a Chyawanprash or Narsimha Rasayana, etc., the sugar content in them always gets questioned, like why they were using sugar. I mean, is it not harmful to health? And what does the modern pharmaceutical companies do with those sugars? So first of all, the ancient Acharyas were using the candy sugar, that is Sita, that was not processed with chemicals. So those was used in those periods, and that type of sugar is also available nowadays also, albeit a bit costlier. So question to Guraja sir is like, why sugar is there in Chyawanprash or Narasimha Rasayana, etc. Ayurvedic products? What role do they play, sir?
See, all leha preparations do contain sugar or jaggery because in a particular concentration they themselves act as a preservative as well as it will give a taste or improvise the palatability of the preparation. For those two things, it is usually given. And people just thinking that the sugar is bad. It is not sugar is bad. The excess sugar is bad. So if you are completely keeping your sugar level within the required range, then sugar is not bad. And those who think, oh, sugar is poison and deadly and all those things, don't take any sort of sugar and you will be no more by the next day. And that is severity you can understand. Or the trouble or the things which will come, I mean, hypoglycemia or something like that, what will happen, you will come to know. What is the importance of sugar? Sugar is a must to everyone because sugar or carbohydrate is the one on which our brain cells thrive. So, is thinking or just labeling the sugar as a bad one, it may not be a right type of thing. Of course, your concern is for more sugar and the chemicals which are used for preparing the sugar are present there. That I do agree. If you are concerned about that part, then definitely you can go with the Kandasita or Sita, which is not treated with all these chemicals comparatively. But it is once again the question arises: is the production and the costliest? I mean, the product will become more costlier compared to the others. If you keep all the drugs in the preparation or the yoga as per the natural, I mean, the original composition itself, many times our preparations will cost too much. For example, Mahamashtela. When all the ingredients are put into that and it is prepared, it becomes much costlier. So what they'll do is avoid certain costly items from that and they'll prepare Lagu Mashatela or Mashatela, something like that. Then it becomes cheaper. See, such type of violation or a deviation may not be a right kind of one when your interest is for getting the proper result. So just simply blaming on sugar may not be a right kind of thing. Sugar has its own role, but it should be keeping it in a particular range. It is our responsibility that we should take care of that. And in any leha preparation, sugar will give the clear-cut finishing to the product as well as improves the palatability, and it itself acts as a preservative. For these three reasons, usually sugars are used in leha paka.
Moving on to the next question. This is regarding the Ashokarishtam. The Ashokarishtam, the main herb is Ashoka, and if the word derivation is that Ashoka. Shoka means depressed mood, and Ashoka means it relieves the depressed mood. And the question is like, can Ashokarishtam be given to help with PMS symptoms and also for anger, frustration, etc., that is usually present in the perimenopausal period? So,
Definitely, during a perimenopausal period, Ashoka, Lodra, Patanga, these are the three important drugs which are required for our disposal. Also, and also along with that, Shatavari to some extent and St. Madhu. If these drugs are good, combined, if we're getting it, and definitely it will help to overcome all the higher mental disturbances which are usually due to many reasons of hormonal fluctuation inside the body. What is the usually it's going through the phase of perimenopausal phase, and definitely we need to it is one of the important drug Ashoka, Patanga, and Lodra, Shatavari. These are very good and very important to overcome mood swings as well as hot flashes and even the balancing of the hormones and all so many things. Even the depressive mood and depression, everything can be overtaken by these things. But when it comes to question of using this drug only for the purpose of in case of depression, this may not be a right kind of drug. There are better drugs used in the depression. So when the causative factors for those type of depression is something different, and here it is influenced by the disturbance or the variance in the hormones. So in this type of variance or disturbance or low of the hormones at particular age of a woman, in that condition, it is better if any associated shoka avastha or the depression or bad mood or mood swings are there, then in that condition to curtail those things to keep it under control, we can use Ashokarishtam or even Lodrasava, Pattangasava. All these are good.
and also going through the shloka of the this one. Usual thing that we remember with Ashokarishtam is that it is useful in say Asrugdara or heavy periods or menorrhagia, and it says Masadu Urdhvam Chapitvenam Asrugdara Rujam Jayet. So it's useful clearly in menorrhagia and heavy periods and related abdominal pain. Jwaram cha Rakta Pitta Arsha Mandagnitvam Arochakam. So it's also useful in Mandagni, Rakta Pitta, Arsha, bleeding disorders, bleeding hemorrhoids, Meha, diabetes, Shofa, inflammatory disorders, Aruchi, and so all those things. So it contains a little bit of spices in the form of musta, shunti, even ajaji, etc. But it also contains certain kashaya rasa pradhana dravyas, is it, sir? Like daru haritra, haritaki, amrasti or mango seed. Even ashoka is also a very good styptic. So a healthy combination of spices and astringency, sir?
See, definitely it is not only spices, but when we compare, when we look at the combination of any yoga, ultimately whichever is the strongest drug or potent drug in the combination and what is the quantity it present. So when you look at these things, the maximum thing is Guda, 9.6 kg, then Ashoka. So it is in between Madura to astringent. In that angle, it will be working, and this Madura and astringent, Madura and Kashaya, both will be acting on Pitta, reduction of Pitta, and thereby it reduces the flow, Asrigdara, and even the Ruja, it will be suppressed. But according to the shloka or the Falashruti, One of the indication is Acharyas they said meha, but keep it in at the present situation. This meha cannot be taken as a diabetes or prameha. I mean, it is kafaja meha or pittaja meha. It cannot be vataja meha, where there is it is almost totally converted into a madhumeha present thing, and patient is having blood sugar as well as increased urine sugar. In that condition, it is not ideal or convenient to use Ashokarista. So otherwise, it can be used.
Yeah, thank you there, sir. And there's a question like how to give those four herbs. Probably this is related to Ashoka, Patanga, Lodra, etc. Probably using them with the ready-made traditional Ayurvedic formulations like Ashoka. Probably best way to give Ashoka is Ashokarishtam, and for Lodra we have Lodra Sava. Patanga is again is having Patranga Sava, etc. Sir.
See, that is a ideal one where we have easily these drugs and combinations are readily available in the market. But the Europe and American issues, they got their own problems. They are not every drug or combination yoga which is available in India is readily available there. So it is better if you are want to do it, then you can go with simply if a patient is not diabetic and this particular condition is there, then you can use equal quantity of Ashoka, Patanga, and Shatavari, and as well as even Lodra, and certain portion of Guda. Prepare your own kashaya, add Guda, and then filter it, then give it to the patient, or make it something like that. That can be used in readily in Europe and American continent, where you cannot get easily these prepared yogas, or maybe in the form of alcoholic beverages or something like that, as Ashokarishtam is what we call, and even sometimes maybe not available of these mercury related nanoparticles of Ayurveda, that is rasa or herbo-mineral drugs. So it is better you can go for a straight away single drugs or herbs, and these herbs may make a combine a fine powder. You can give it with honey also to some extent. Better you can avoid prepare a kashaya and give with jaggery. It will be a very ideal one.
I see that at least in US, the question is coming from US. Ashokaristam is available with Kotakal shop, but Lodrasava and all might not be available. And somebody has asked for what's the ratio of their ratio and best formulation. Yeah, best formulation is that all herbs in equal quantity as explained by Gurubodha sir, and in what dose. Regular dose of kashaya is, even if you prepare by yourself, it is between 24 to 48 ml. Sir?
Yes, definitely. Because the dose of any medicine usually depends on various parameters: body weight of the patient, Agni Bala of the patient, Roga Bala of the patient, season, as well as even the condition. For example, if a patient is suffering from PMS as well as there is a severe bleeding, then you may need to give medicine muhur muhu. Repeatedly, you have to give till the target is achieved. Then, in that time, the quantity of the medicine dose will increase. Otherwise, in an ideal condition, as generally for what Kashaya dosage it is there, 20 ml to 40 ml, somewhere around that age, you can use it.
Yeah, and as Ayurveda practitioners, first thing to do is like Panchaveda Kashaya Kalpana and then Avaleha, all these things. By heart the doses, get to know the normal dose, churna, vati, tablet, etc. And then based on the condition, weight of the patient, condition of the patient, extent of disease, etc., alter the dose. So that is the basic thing to do. And moving on to the next topic, it is one of the very kind of a rare thing where many of the ancient Ayurveda masters gathered and discussed on one topic, and each of those masters put forth their own opinion on the number of tastes, and finally it was concluded that there is only so many number of tastes. So as Dravagana student back in 99 2000, I enjoyed Gurubodha sir's narration of this, and I wanted to share that enjoyment with the fellow Ayurveda students. So Gurubodha sir, can you please elucidate this topic for us, please?
See, Bhadrakapya is these things usually present I mean, entire discourse or the dialogue in the presentation, whatever it is there. It's available in the 26th chapter of Sutrasthana Charaka Samhita, Atreya Bhadrakapya Adhyaya. In that, very clearly, the number of rasa has been decided. So, in front of Master Atreya, his disciples started keeping their views. The first one was to keep his Bhadrakapya, and he said, rasa is nothing but jala, no other taste. It is straight away jala, which is subjected, one which is identified by the tongue. So it is nothing but jala mahabhuta and jala. Then came the second version, that is Shakunteya Brahmana. He said two types, that is Chedaniya and Upashamaniya. And one is emaciating or scraping type of thing, another one is nourishing or palliating type of thing. Then came the third version, that is Purnaksha Maudgalya. He says Chaitanya, Upashamani and Sadharana, something like that. Then the fourth variety came by, I think, Hiranyaksha Kaushika. He kept as a Swaduhita and Aswaduhita, Swadu Ahita and Aswadu Ahita, unpalatable and unwholesome, palatable and wholesome, palatable, unwholesome, like that, palatable and unwholesome. These varieties, the combinations they have explained. Then came a fifth variety by Kumarashila Bharadwaja. He is kept based on the Panchamahabhutas like Parthiva, Apya, Tejasa, Vayu and Akashiya elements. Based on that, rasa has been classified. Then came the sixth variety. We all thought, everybody, that the sixth variety is right and it will be a very good one. And that is what we learned to learn. But it is being kept forth by the sage Ayurveda. He said once again, based on the gunas, Guru Lagu Shita Ushna Snigdha Ruksha, based on that, the rasas have been explained. Then came the seventh variety. It is by Nimi, wherein the regularly accepted Madhura Amla Lavana Katutikta Kashaya is there, but along with that, Kshara has been added and made as seventh one. Then comes the eighth variety, that is the Badisha Dhamargava. So he said that there are as seven quoted by Nimi, same thing. Along with that, one Avyakta also added by him. That is something which is imperceivable or not perceived one, or it cannot be totally perceived. So these are the 8 varieties. Then came the last one, the Kankayana. He suggested there are innumerable number. There is a very dictionary or what you call total group of drugs or the number of drugs. So definitely there will be n number of rasas in that. So ultimately, when everybody presented their thing, then Punarvasu Atreya very politely discarded each and every theory put forth by all these fellows, stating what is the reason for that, and ultimately established there are only Shadeva Rasaha, there are only 6 rasas, and they are Madhura, Amla, Lavana, Katutikta, Kashaya. So that these are the things we need to understand. And Acharya explained, this is the explanation what we can. There is only one rasa, that is nothing but water and jalamabhuta. It cannot be source and taste, one which is originated from this source cannot become the same. So that's why this first put forth by the Atreya Bhadrakapya has been dislodged or rejected. Then Chetana and Upashamana are the nourishment, the two types of actions or karmas. It cannot be rasa. Rasa is one which is perceived by the tongue. So based on these parameters, this theory also removed or kept aside. Then very clearly they said Sadharana is also not a type of rasa, which cannot be. So that's why the third variety is also kept out. Then comes the fourth variety, Swaduhita and Swaduhita. Swadu is acceptable, but Hita and Ahita are these type of things that is the effect once again on the body. It cannot be rasa. So hence the 4 types of rasa theory is also been rejected, and it becomes invalid. Then comes the fifth variety. Very clearly said, this Panchamahabhutas cannot become the totally the rasa. Rasa may be influenced by the Panchamahabhuta, but exactly Panchamahabhuta itself cannot become rasa. So that cannot be taken as a valid thing. Similarly, the Lagu Guru and these type of gunas, they are basically gunas and they are not the rasa. Rasa is something which is perceived by the tongue, whereas Ruksha and Snigdha, all these are not perceived by the tongue, they are Sparshagamya, so it cannot be taken as rasa, so it cannot be. So hence even that point is also rejected. Then comes the hence 60 rasas based on the quality is invalid. That's what they said. And ultimately, the seventh variety they added by the Kshara and all those things because they said the Kshara is a combination of many tastes. It cannot be a single taste. And Kshara itself is a physical effect. It is not the taste. So it cannot be concluded and taken and accepted as a rasa. Hence, that theory is also rejected. Then comes the next variety, Avyakta. In that, they said once again, Avyakta, imperceptibility of taste is affected only in Jalama Abhuta water element. It happens the taste is hidden and deep in the substances. But when something is not at all exhibited totally or not at all exhibited, then it cannot be considered as a rasa directly. Rasa is one which is pursued directly by the tongue. So it should not be an inference, something which is accepted after the beyond the purview of the tongue. So it cannot be taken. So that's why it is also rejected. And Aparimita Sankhya, what Kankayana has said, that is also been rejected. So you cannot have a Aparimita. It only six, and they are Madhura, Amla, Lavana, Kadukitta, Kashaya. So these are all the six varieties of rasas, which is directly perceived by the tongue, and in a very specific differentiation, these are accepted, I mean identified or perceived. Hence, it can be taken. But in modern medicine, they feel that there are only four type of taste buds, so we will have only four. Particularly the pungent and astringent, these two cannot be a taste, and there are the local effect. They say that, so it is up to them. And ultimately, they are also started accepting that these are also the effect is also a type of rasa, but there are a little bit of controversy or something like that. But otherwise, these are the six rasas which is accepted in Ayurveda.
And so it's a wonderful thing that they have Acharya Charaka has included in the Charak Samhita that many Ayurveda experts from very different places came together and made such a conference and picked up one particular topic and discussed from all possible angles and decided on the number of rasas. And going with that, the Swadu Hita, Swadu Ahita, personally likable or not likable. So one is that the tastes were presented by some acharyas as if it is a personal choice whether somebody likes it or not. Or some people went directly into the gunas like Lagu, Guru, Ushna, Shita, etc. Directly into a pharmacological explanation, which is a quality of the herb uh, rather than particular taste. So ultimately, the Lord Punarasu goes on to explain each taste, its qualities, and so on and so forth. So taste in Ayurveda is both a matter of perception and also as a tool it is explained or used to explain particular pharmacological actions also, right, sir? Because Tikta is explained as Jwaragna, or Madhura is explained as Ahlada Janana, and so on and so forth.
Definitely, based on the first line of parameter only, very clearly they said all the six type of rasas are broadly classified into Shamaka rasa and Kopaka rasas. Very clearly, which is going to improve the or increase the particular doshas, or which is going to suppress the particular doshas. So very clearly, when they are able to influence the doshas to some extent of getting increased or decreased, and definitely they will influence even on the disease parameters. So they too have their own effects, and they produce the nullifying effect on the diseases, hence which is accepted by the acharyas, and they have used it, and even practically we see them when we use a particular type of thing. It will be very easily we can understand. For example, if a patient is having a lot of burping and even burning sensation or acidic erections, then acidic erectations and these type of things are there, then if you give Tikta Dravya, very clearly bitter principle, which is going to give you a lot of soothing effect. So that's the reason we use many times Sariva and Chandana, these type of drugs in the Kiratikta or Bhunimba, such type of drugs are used even in acidity, hyperacidity, because it reduces the Vidakta Pitta and turns Vidakta into a normal one. So that's the reason very typically Acharyas have mentioned which rasa is going to nullify which diseases. And of course, how far it is going to suppress or bring an alternation in the doshas. So definitely they have got their influence over the diseases. Based on that only Acharyas have used and even given directions what to use, what not to be used.
For budding Ayurveda doctors who find it very difficult to do the Amshamsha Kalpana or to pick right medicines and all, probably at least to start with based on the doshas and relating or matching that with particular taste. I'm not saying that it is the best strategy. At least it can be one of the strategies to get accustomed to varieties of herbs and medicines. So list all the herbs that you know and classify them based on tastes and start using them. So this can be a starting point in learning the art of prescription, sir.
See, that is only one part of it. It is cannot be totally taken as it is because many a times our treatment protocol or modality won't depend only on the rasa. It depends on many other factors. We know that there are saptapadarthas in a dravya and each and everything has its own contribution in the manifestation of the various karmas exhibited by these drugs. So when such situation is there, we cannot simply say that by the simple rasas we can achieve the treatment. Of course, but it can be one of the protocol or one of the criteria in the protocol while designing a chikitsa krama. We can utilize those things. That's the reason Ayurveda have very clearly mentioned classification of drugs based on the rasa into many skandhas. Six rasas have been kept into six skandhas, that is Madhura skandha, Kashaya skandha, Lavana skandha, Katuskandha, like that, and they have included the drugs into those groups. So, which give very clearly gives an idea to us that which are the drugs with prominent taste in them, and how far we can use them based on the rasa. And very typically, in a drug, if a rasa is in a dominant format and which is capable of influencing the doshas, then only that can be used. Otherwise, if in a drug, for example, its a virya is a very strong one or its a guna is a strong one, it will overtake the action of rasa and will bring the action of it's according to its qualities. So if a drug has capability of producing an effect or nullifying the other factors of the dravya and exhibits or brings about the karma which is desired as per the lines of the rasa, particular rasa, then we can say that is used by the bin and that type of things can be used according to based on rasa, but not always in every case.
Thank you there, sir. And there's a question here, and it's an interesting one. So, craving for sugary foods is quite common among the people. Sweet tasting foods are mostly used as comforting foods. What's your view on this, and how to overcome this craving? So, I was reading a book on diet, and they explain like why we crave for sweet foods, oily, rich, fried foodstuffs, salty foods are also craved. So when our forefathers were hunters and gatherers, so these sweet, rich foods or these salty, spicy foods were very rare, and even the oily and fat-rich foods were very rare. And they were, salt was able to store some amount of fluids in our body because the hunters and gatherers were not knowing when they are going to get the next meal. So body itself were craving so that they can store sufficient amount of fluids within them. So salts were craved for, oils and fats and proteins like non-vegetarian and whatnot. So they are the sources of nutrition which can be stored in the body and that can be converted into energy at any time. So that was the point of origin of why we started craving for certain types of foods, even the sweet tasting foods also, like sugarcane, raisin, etc. So we crave it so that it gives us instant boost of energy, which was required when we were like hunters and gatherers. And even if you go to our grandparents' level, they were very hardworking and all. But now we are in a very difficult situation where we are sitting in air-conditioned rooms. Most of our work revolves around sitting in front of a computer, or we clearly are not as physically active as our forefathers, but the craving is there still around and causing a lot of problems, sir.
See, basically, craving for anything is a mental condition and it is purely responsible by that person. He develops that because we have many people they are having a different type of cravings, not always for the Madhurasa. I have seen so many people craving for very pungent foods. And even I had one my fellow friend, who never used to take Madhur Rasa. He doesn't like Madhur Rasa, but he used to take a lot of pungent. So like that, there are people who can take depend upon those things. See, if for example, if somebody, if I say you can do sambar, something like that, without using tomatoes, they'll be astonished and they'll say, without tomato, how can we make sambar? Because they don't know what are the other sources which also yields the amla rasa. Using a tamarind or a nimbu also can be made into a something like that, or amchur can be used as an alternative thing. How it can be made? Because people are not knowing and they are knowing only one variety of things, and accordingly they consume those things and they develop an affiliation towards that. And that affiliation, sometimes it is so that if you go to Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, these areas of India, where people consume, even in the North Karnataka, lot of spicy items. Their spices comparatively double the dose of what we Southern Indians, other people we consume. Similarly, when a non-vegetarian diet will usually has more garam masala and a certain, so when a people are having a fantasy and to eat those things, definitely they'll crave for those materials. And if you observe, usually the children, they have a little bit of more cravings towards the madhurasa dravyas rather than others.
And another thing regarding craving is that, like rightly you said, uh, and Sadhguru once said that most of the problems that current period generation is kind of a fashionable problem. Oh, I have a craving for particular type of cake or soda, or I cannot live without Netflix. So, I mean, this is more, as much as this is related to food, this is also very much related to the mind. And probably one of the ways to avoid or prevent from craving is to be very watchful what type of food that we are eating on a daily basis, and ideally we should be eating the taste from all the six tastes rather than sticking to only one particular taste, and being watchful and avoiding wherever we're feeling that one type of foods, so for example chips or sugar, etc. If we are taking it little more, cutting it down and avoiding it for the moment and letting the craving go by is, so mental control plays a very big role in coming out of cravings. So,
Not only that, everything. See, some very clear thing is that sankalpa. If you do sankalpa that I won't do this one, I don't take this one, I take only this one, that is the first and basic line. If you keep those things in a very strict manner, then automatically rest will follow. If you are having a vulnerability that you are you may just because somebody has offered you some sweets in the midday, then you are able to take it, and then it is up to you. So if you don't want to take, you say, I have fixed my diet as only 2 diet per day, then I don't consume anything in between. Then nobody will force you if you follow that trend. But many a times what we do is that we don't follow the trend as a discipline what is required. So ultimately what we do is whatever it comes in the way, we just taste them and enjoy that. And by the end of the day, as we are only sitting and doing around the chair and even the computers and all those things, ideally then it becomes very awkward by few months or years. Then we'll be putting a lot of weight and the body is stored with excess fat. Then blaming on the Madhurasa and something like that. It is you to be get blamed, not the Madhurasa. One who has to decide what to eat, what not to eat, that been broken by the person itself. So we cannot blame it on the any Madhurasa Dravya or anything like that. It is our will and wish and our decision to consume it. So that's why we are when you are unable to expense those things which are stored in the body, definitely body bulk will go and even rich cholesterol, sugar and everything will come into scene.
having a controlled mind is and being very disciplined what goes into our mind, and also what addictions that we are gathering. Like you told, whatever comes our way, we eat it, and we start scrolling Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok in Western world has become a big competitor for Facebook in terms of addiction. So just keep on scrolling and watch the videos that are thrown at us, and we, in a negative way, we start enjoying that negative feeling. And it is time for us to have a good control over mind and be strong, and be very selective what goes into our mind and also what goes to our mouth as well. Like Swami Vivekananda told, strength is life and weakness is death. But we have become a sort of slave to the weaknesses nowadays. So,
Definitely, that's what I said. Sankalpa is the first one. If you skip those first line, then definitely there will be derailment from the track. So if you are very clear with what you are supposed to do and put the train in the first itself in the right track, then of course there will be no problem. Otherwise, simply whatever it is, somebody is saying that today is my birthday, then also some sweets and something, and then today there is a party in the office, then they enjoyed it, and when once to go home, then the children they ask it once again. There are some snacks, some tea, coffee, and then once again wait. There is a lunch, and dinner, and something like that. So going on throwing lot of materials and food into the system. What it does, it actually, as far as possible, it tries to digest it and store it, keeping in the things that it may be required in the future. But until unless we don't utilize them in by physical exercises or training or something like that, if you don't do burn out the calories, definitely we will be in trouble. That should not be done. So that's why I said many times, don't blame at the sugary things or sugars. Blame yourself. You are the one who can control it. You have spoiled it, and now you are blaming on the sugar and sugary things. Don't. It won't work out.
and like the mental control part, just last week, a few days before, there was a big shootout in Texas, one of the schools in Texas, US, wherein 18, 19-year-old caught hold of a gun and killed 19 students and 2 teachers in a shootout. And there is a lot of talk regarding the mental control and mental discipline that's coming up. And I also heard recently an interview of Rajiv Tarleja. Talreja is a professional business coach, and he runs his own thing and all. And he says that, this mental control, mental wellness. So we became so much addicted to these apps and other things, and we are becoming so much relying our entire lives on this technology and all. So the reverse of that is going to be a trend, and probably it is high time that Ayurvedic people become, Ayurveda community doctors become very well versed in mind and psychology and this topic. There's a big future there. So.
See, in America and that continent, what they face in this sort of mass shootout and these things, we need to buy straight away the gun culture of that country. See, in India, I cannot readily purchase a gun in the market by paying anything. I don't get the bullets, I don't get the gun so easily, which is restricted. But in America, it is not so. You can straight away buy it from the market with all some legal documents, whatever it required. Anybody can buy any gun. So when such type of gun culture is there, definitely somebody, because of various other reasons, and has a gun in his hand, then definitely he will go for the Vikrita Avastha and do nonsense. Even though he is having a depression and deviated, but if there is no gun, he cannot kill so many people. So that they need to understand. But this gun culture is a very big issue in America, and it even sometimes throw away the political parties. They have something like that in India. That reservation is there. No, it's like that. It is untouchable topic there. Nobody, no political party will dare to avoid or stop this gun culture in America. That's why there will be continuous shootouts.
And Deepsiji writes, buying a gun is a mental sickness. Politicians do not want to do anything to stop gun culture. They deflect the blame to anything else but guns. But this time it is mental health. Yeah, that particular person who killed 19 students was under psychiatric treatment as well. So yeah, strange world we are living here. And there's a question. And most of these students who are attending these classes are like young upcoming Ayurveda doctors who are in the initial few months. So a question related to that has come. Ideally, for an Ayurveda student to start start with Ayurveda practice, what needs to be the prerequisite to establish a successful practice? Since Ayurveda is a huge science, including Nadi Parikshana, Prakriti Parikshana, etc., it seems to be challenging enough to the students. Make those students make try to get into the knowledge. When it comes to practical utility, fear creeps into the mind. Sir, as an experienced one in this field, according to you, what are the things the student should take care of so as to dedicate their best in the Ayurveda practice? Fundamentals of Ayurveda practice, where to start, what makes an Ayurveda doctor, sir?
See, if you want to become a successful Ayurveda doctor and to make a name and fame, it requires certain prerequisites. So one of the important prerequisites is when you study Ayurveda in the classes or through gurus or relatives, you need to study it in a real sense, giving all utmost concentration and trying to understand the concepts very clearly. Means you should have the thorough knowledge of the theoretical part of it, the subject. Then comes you should have the practical approach, how to handle the patient, how to take the history, how to analyze the lakshanas, what lakshanas are present with this, and all those concepts can be learned through gurus in colleges or in institutions or gurukula or whatever it is they are in such type of therapeutical centers through which you need to have a thorough knowledge of practical part of the theory. So if you have a strong theory and a practical, definitely, and of course, knowing about the various yogas and their guna, rasaguna, virapa, their falashruti and so many things and their availability, when you start practicing independently, when a patient comes to you, first thing, rogamadu parikshetam tadanantaram aushadam. That's the thing what you need to do it. Analyze what the condition is, what the presenting complaints are, and what basically you come out with a baseline that whether it is vata, pitta, kapha or in combination or all the three together, whatever it is. Then how long he is suffering from and what are the other lakshanas being found. Then keep all these with you, then finalize what drug can be given. If you follow these protocols in a peculiar fashion without deviating from this, then definitely there will be successful things. I'll explain you how the people will make you to slip away from the protocol. Recently, I had a patient. She had asthma and she required virechana, tamaketu virechana. But she doesn't have the number of holidays or leaves. So she asked whether can you concise this process. They want to have virechana, the two classical virechana, but it should be concised. Means you give me treatment wherein the medicine should be sweet. I can't take the bitter principles. So such type of things will make you to deviate. Don't yield to such type of deviations forced by the patients. It is the one who has the liberty to choose the drug is the physician. He is the right person based on so many parameters. He will make the right choice of what drug should be taken. So such type of deviation and pushing you to different things, and many a times sometimes fellow friends who are already started and they're established, they are providing something new things with new names, power Ayurveda, power yoga, something like that. Then always so many things will force you to deviate from the basics. It is just like in the game of cricket, what they say, stick to the basics. So here also stick to the basics. If you stick on to the basics of theory as well as practical, then that knowledge will definitely help you and guide you to the right path, and definitely you will find the success.
One of the early traps that we Ayurveda practitioners get into is like cajoling and giving into the preferences of the patient. So customer is king. That works in some other fields, but in an Ayurveda setup, it should be the Vaidya who takes all the decisions and with the convincing powers, with the right language, with the right word, convince the patient and then make him to fall in line and do not go overboard to, accommodate the patient. And ultimately what matters is principles, processes and protocols. And another point that I observed is that have a case sheet and try to, especially for the budding doctors and of course for all the doctors as well, having a case sheet and filling up how is the Agni, how is the Mala, how is the Nidra, what are the doshas involved. So this kind of methodical approach would help automatically to think, do the Amshamsha Kalpana to break down the disease, and also to do the Rogi Pariksha very elegantly, sir.
See, definitely, this is one criteria when you analyze all these things. In every disease, the very primary concern is Acharyas very clearly says Mandagni. So you need to improve the Agni of the patient. So try to analyze what sort of Agni he is having, and the Agni is influenced by which dosha and which one. Based on that, what are the lakshanas are there. So based on that, you can finalize what type of Agni he is having and how to improve that Agni to a right kind of Agni. So then, if first thing is if you improve the Agni, that Agni itself is digest the Ama, and once that Ama is digested, automatically many lakshanas will subside. Then comes the real drug with choice which you have taken and it can be given. So that's why many a times we always club our preparations in while prescription. Either it will be having Trikatu Churna, either it will be having some Chiraka, Ringvasika Churna, or it is having some Aragyavardhini Vati or something like that. So all those things will directly guiding the patient, the body to set a right kind of Agni first, and that will definitely improve the all other factors.
And another point of pain for new Ayurveda doctors is like picking the herbs and picking the right medicines. So start Ayurveda practice with 10 to 20 to 30 Ayurvedic medicines that you already know, and study them in detail, and probable combinations that you can make within them, and start with simple line of treatment for easy to treat diseases which you are already comfortable with, and who in your internship, etc., you have seen such cases. So concentrate on that, and side by side start improving your armory, and start studying about more and more herbs, more and more medicines, and start including more and more medicines into your permutations and combinations. When an Ayurveda doctor starts, he'll not be knowing everything on the day one. So it's a practice, and it's a process, continuous process of learning, sir.
Unfortunately, that is due to the substandard colleges and the institution from where the people are getting their degrees and coming out. If you are coming through a standard and a very comparatively quite number of patients are seen, and there will be no deviation from the theoretical knowledge and all those things, then definitely by the time you come out of college, definitely you know much things which can be a basic things for the practice. But all those colleges where there are substandard and even practicals are not held and the patients are not there sufficiently, they are not observe the patients, and even students are also not interested to know about things. They enjoyed their college days, and now suddenly once they come out, then they'll find a problem and they still things. That's the reason we need to be very very strict in disciplined in utilizing our time during college days. Enjoyment is a part of it, but it should not become the total time. We need to have certain time for studies, proper studies, understanding the concepts, clearing those concepts in your mind very clearly, and then observing those concepts, how it is being applied and the real cases, conditions, and how the improvement are seen. So based on that, it is a pratyaksha pramana. You will come to know that what exactly happening, and it becomes a very clear information for you when you practice independently in future.
And another way probably to fine tune our prescription skills is probably once you prescribe, maybe go back to the textbooks, Asangridam, Charksamhita, Sushta Samhita, and whatnot, and study the disease, and also study the disease and analyze what else you could have done better. And so that is one way. And also Vaidya Samoho Nisamshaya Karanam, like you have told in many previous episodes. Put it in WhatsApp groups and be open to criticism, and be always learning and ask for opinions, and be humble enough to take positive advice given by the fellow doctors and incorporate. So.
Definitely. So many such groups are there. Vaidya Samoha is there. If any case is there and you have done certain basic application or prescription, then keep those conditions and information or data from the history and what your diagnosis, probable diagnosis, and then what is the treatment protocol you are given. If you place it on that thing and ask for the seniors to comment or give guidance, and definitely if any errors or possible errors are there, that can be guided by the seniors, and they'll say add these things or avoid these things, something like that. They give their inputs, and definitely that will improve the everybody's in the group their knowledge and their practice skills.
And another idea for budding Ayurveda practitioners is to ask the requisite patient to visit back in a shorter period of maybe 2 to 3 weeks only, so that if there is any fine tuning is to be done, it can be done in the next visit itself. So shorter period, at least in the initial practice, would help to fine tune, sir.
Not only initial practice, in every case, whatever the medicines you give, it should not be in the first sitting, it should not be more than for 15 days. It should be less than 15 days, and then that will be a very ideal one. Then by the 15 days time, then you will have at least some noticeable changes will be there, or anything to be added or deleted or increase the dose or whatever it is can be done after that. So it's initially it should be at 15 days or below 15 days. It should not be more than that.
One Ayurveda practitioner, regarding the fear or the courage to do certain treatments and to prescribe certain medicines. Dr. Roshi Joseph, she's my senior in from Copa, and she's a PhD professor now. Her father is a very senior practitioner and all, and she was telling me in my Copa days that during younger times her father would take bigger risks and bigger bets and would prescribe aggressive therapies with a lot of courage, but as he aged that courage decreased and he went on to prescribe some safer herbs. So courage is also an important aspect of Ayurveda practice, that we have to back our knowledge and do all things that is necessary to give the best possible cure to the patient, sir.
Courage, I cannot take it as a thing which, because see, simply if you have courage, you don't have a backup of knowledge, then what is the use of that courage? That cannot going to help us. Courage, in better terms, we can keep it as we should know basically when we take up the first case, what is the condition of the doshas in the body, what is the Ana, Agni, and basic line. When you understand this is the thing, and accordingly maybe some laboratory investigations to support our diagnosis or probable correlation things can be done. And once that is done, and the condition is not an emergency one, and is not going to land up in any serious nature of the disease, or it is not further advanced, in such cases you can courageously use the drugs of your choice based on your judgments. So only in case of emergency type of things which may slip away to the emergency area very sharply or very short time, then the courage is required to handle those type of things. If something goes wrong, how to handle this, what should be conveyed to the patient's relatives, and all those things. And regarding the prognosis, what should be told, and how to take the consent, and what is the methods to be explained, and what probably things may happen. The case may in this type of case, that may be a particular case, that maybe chances are 50-50. All these things should be very, that time you need the courage to explain to the patient relative, because patient relatives will be in a traumatized condition, they'll be anxious and they'll be looking for only the result, and their feeling is that we have brought the patient to the doctor and the doctor has seen and medicine is given, then patient should become normal, operate within a few days or few hours. So if it is not happening, definitely they'll start asking what is happening, why it is not happening, or why the results are not seen. So we need to explain them in the initially what the condition is that, and how far we can help, and what may be the total outcome. If they are convinced, then only we can start the treatment. Otherwise, if it is going to be tougher one and something like that, or maybe causing trouble or may end up in problems, better shift the patient or refer the patient to higher centers where people can handle it.
So ultimately, Ayurveda practice is all about learning more, having more experience, and backing what we know and giving the best to the patients. So with that note, I thank all the participants for their interesting questions. And on behalf of all of us students, thank you very much, Gurubodha sir, for an interesting session.
Thank you everyone.